episode 1 of the at Diago Fit podcast. I didn't even know I was going to do this shit. Kind of just happened on a whim. But we're here with the homie Jacob. He runs a TRT clinic. If you want to give a quick introduction to yourself, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jacob. I own Overtime Men's Health with partner of mine. His name's Julian Becerra. And we are in all things regenerative and integrative medicine. And the biggest thing right now in the regenerative space is going to be hormones.
Yes, sir. It's a big one. So we figured that we just shoot the shit this episode. Don't really know what we're going to talk about, but it's going to be all things gear related because you know me, guys. I love steroids. I love trend. So we are going to be talking about gear. Now, yes, I wouldn't say I necessarily glorify gear. I definitely do. But I like to preach taking the shit in a safe manner because if you just take shit like Togi, take shit haphazardly, you're going to fuck yourself up bad. So this shit does come with consequences. You want to make sure that you're optimizing everything, have your protocols dialed, make sure you're mitigating sides, and you are going to have a good time when it comes to gear. But if you do this wrong, there are serious health consequences, life implications. You can mess yourself up for life with this. It is not a game. So that's what we're going to be going into today, is just making sure that you're doing this shit safely, the right way. So let's get started with this. So the first topic here is going to be being optimized over natty. So the mental and physical edge when your hormones, biomarkers, and energy are dialed in. How to look insane without wrecking your health. So what do you have to say about that one, brother?
Well, we see people every single day, and I think you started with a good note. A lot of people, especially the younger guys, they see guys like Togi. They see guys like coming in saying, hey, you want to take a gram of tren and a gram of test and then run that and drink alcohol and do drugs. And there are a few guys out there that can really do it, but the mass majority of the population, you're going to end up with some sort of issue. So our whole thing is we are not the cops. We are not a traditional doctor's office. We're not going to sit here and tell you, hey, you can't take any steroids or we're going to report you. But we are going to make sure you're doing everything the right way. And the main thing that's going to come down to is your blood work. There are guys that use testosterone, steroids even, and do it at a very safe level for a very long time. However, there are guys that kind of go down the rabbit hole where they're just trusting somebody at the gym who's like, trust me, bro, like just stick it in your ass, right? And our main thing is we can get you a look that these guys are looking for, that full look that looks unnatural, but you can do it in a very safe way. And that's everything that we do. And for our process, it's really simple. You come in, first thing we do is we test your hormones. So we want to see what your T level's at. That in and of itself, pretty much everybody's low. And they're resorting to steroids because they can't put on muscle mass at the rate that they want to because everyone's got low T. And that comes from a million different things, whether it's the microplastics in the food, the water, everything we do, the pesticides on the food. It all has what's called xenoestrogens, which is why you see a lot of these kids, they look like in high school, they look like they're 12 years old. And they're graduating. Meanwhile, the girls, they're overdeveloped, right? They start developing when they're 10, 12 years old now. And it's because there's so much estrogen in everything that we consume. So a lot of these guys go their whole lives never testing their testosterone or their hormones because their primary care is never going to do it. When you were growing up, did your mom ever take you to the doctor to get your T checked?
Absolutely not.
Of course not, right? You would get looked at like a psychopath.
Yeah.
So we see this now, and for some reason, it's just not covered. There's not one day of it covered in medical school. We employ several different doctors, practitioners, physicians, assistants. Every single one of them says if you even bring up hormones in medical school, it's almost like taboo. Like you can't talk about it but it's one of the biggest makeups of your body. So all these kids they're growing up now and they're seeing their favorite fitness influencer. He looks jacked and they're like, I want to look like him. They think the only way to do it is steroids. Meanwhile, there's a million routes you can go. The one we take, of course, is testosterone. Is the first thing we look at. There's natural remedies and there's things like replacement therapy. Now for your audience, it's mostly going to be on the steroid side of things. It's mostly going to be using testosterone as a performance enhancement, less as a balance. For us, we believe there's kind of a middle ground where you can get that look without completely destroying your internal organs.
100%. Yeah, dude. Like going back to your point on everyone having low tests, like it is so true, bro. The amount of clients I get that come in with completely crash tests they didn't even know is alarming. It's absolutely alarming. And I do believe on your point of like getting your test checked, this should be part of everybody's like physical checkup, bro. At least if you're a male. For females too, yes, it has some play in things, but with males specifically, like we're at the worst point in society right now where every guy's test is so low, and it is because of society's consumerism mentalities and stuff, and everyone's giving advices like porn and fucking drugs and weed and all this shit that completely destroys testosterone. So it is a major problem. Getting on TRT is a solid fucking option, and I do think that anyone even considering it should maybe give it a try, but understand what you're doing, because a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people that watch my shit, they're just gonna hop on haphazardly, take tests, and fix everything. It's not like that. When you get on TRT, it's a lifelong decision, as you know. Like, once you get on this, first off, it becomes psychologically addictive. It's not physically addictive. It's not like meth, heroin, where you're actually going to get addicted, but it is very psychologically addictive. And once you put that fucking needle in your ass, it is very hard to stop, especially if you had low T, because now your well-being is gonna be increased. You're not gonna feel any type of anxiety. You might if you did prior, but you're gonna feel a lot better. You're gonna look at yourself in the mirror, and everything is going to look amazing. Your body's gonna look good, assuming that you're dialed, and you're not gonna want to come off. So that's a major part of this. But also, if you decide to take TRT for the long haul, it's gonna be very hard to recover your natural test levels if you take this shit for a prolonged period of time, which a lot of people don't understand either, which is why I make this point so often.
You know, there's a lot of things you can do to actually preserve that. One of the two protocols that we do in-house is either HCG or enclomiphene while doing testosterone. So a lot of people are familiar with them as a fertility medication, right? You blast your whatever you're going to take, and then you take your HCG when it's time to have kids. Something I do personally, and something we recommend at Overtime, is you actually take it throughout the cycle, throughout the time that you're on the testosterone.
Interesting.
It actually keeps the pituitary and your testicular function, everything working throughout the time. Because the biggest side effect that everybody talks about when you're on T is your nuts shrivel up.
Yes.
You ever heard of chestnuts?
Yeah, bro.
Your nuts shrivel up so far that they're in your chest. That comes from David Goggins, but he's talking about more guys being soft than he is actually testicular atrophy. But you can eliminate these things, especially testicular atrophy, and keep your testicles functioning with using things like HCG and enclomiphene throughout the time that you're on testosterone. It keeps everything working and tells your body, hey, although there's testosterone here and you don't need to make more, we do want to keep our testicular function and preserve your fertility. Because a lot of guys go on, and the biggest thing we hear from young guys that come in, they're like, hey, I want to have kids one day.
Yes.
Right? So do I, you know? But
it's huge.
I've been doing testosterone replacement therapy since I was 23 years old. I started off as a client, as most do, and then I saw a lot of the errors in the industry. One of the biggest things that aggravated me during my early time, you know, I was just kind of following the advice of the doctor who gave it to me. They gave me a compound called ganadorelin. You familiar with this one?
Yes.
Does almost nothing for your fertility. Almost nothing. And all it does is protect the atrophy, so it stops them from shriveling up. But it doesn't do anything to actually keep you fertile. And I took it for over a year, and I was wondering, you know, a little TMI, but you start going and you see that the substance is actually clear, right? It's supposed to be white when you ejaculate, right?
Yeah.
And there's a clear sign that there's nothing alive in there, right? And I go to the doctor, I'm like, what's going on? I do my own research. I find out ganadorelin has little to no effect on fertility in the slightest, but it's a much higher profit margin, so a lot of these places will push it. Because HCG, there's only one company that can make it, Pregnol, or I believe it's Pregnol. Pregnol. And there's not much margin on it. But the biggest thing with us when we started our company was we wanted everyone to come here knowing what they're doing is going to work, as opposed to what can we make the most money on with these guys. And the youth especially is very susceptible to the white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome, like if a doctor tells you it, that means it's true.
Such a trap, bro.
9 times out of 10, it's not freaking true.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier, you know, previous medical things we've talked about, and you'd be surprised how many of these guys like really don't know the answer to your problems and how much of it you have to take into your own hands. And I think we saw the biggest awakening of that during COVID, where everybody was getting these vaccines. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm good. And then everyone got COVID again. And the doctors were like, oh, what do we do now? All right, tell them to get another one, right? And they just kept rolling and rolling. And all of a sudden, these guys got 5 booster shots. And
it's not just that, it's everything else. Like,
everything.
They just dope you up, bro. They want you to have low T. The shit they put you on makes you have low testosterone. And it's like, I made this joke where it was like, I trust my plug more than I do a doctor. Because it's like, I'd rather go to a guy that at least wants my tests to be in the optimal range and just get my shit there, besides going to a doctor instead of doing that shit. Because when I go to a doctor, what do they want? They want to diagnose me with some shit. They want to put me on some medication, which I have no clue what it is, and it's just going to end up doping me up. I'm going to go back there and put me on some more shit. Pretty soon, I'm going to be a full-blown whale on like 50 different fucking pills daily. This is what happens to everybody now, bro.
The earlier they can get you on one medication, they've got you for life. They say, it's sickening to hear, but the number one most profitable thing in healthcare is a sick child. The earlier they can get you on the first medication, that one medication that you take, whether it's for liver, kidney, brain, ADHD, how much are they giving away that crap? That one medication will then cause a different problem. Now you have to have two medications. Bro, that one causes another.
It's so evil.
And by the time you're 30, 40 years old, you're on 20 different things and you're a customer for life. It's not the way medicine was designed to be. And the American health system, I think, is the craziest with this. If you go to other countries, it's not like this. But we're all run by a capitalist society, and I have no problem with capitalism, but there are people that exploit it. And I think the medical and the insurance industry are the two biggest examples of it, which is why everything we do is typically not covered by insurance because it's actually going to work. It's going to solve your problem, and you don't need to be on it for life. It's a quarrel we run into every day, but it's something I really enjoy doing because you get the text, you get the messages back from the clients like, you changed my life. I've never felt this good.
There's no better feeling than getting those messages.
I'm sure you get them from your clients as well.
All the time, bro, where they're just like, you got me out of such a bad situation, rock bottom situation. It's like, yeah, bro, it really is just your diet, your training, getting your program in place, and then optimizing your hormones and making sure that you are good, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. And dude, it feels so good. It like gives me a dopamine boost even hearing it now because it really is changing people's lives. And this should be a nationwide thing that just happens, bro. It's like, it's weird how we have to be those guys that sort of do it.
You gotta be a lab rat. So
yeah, it's weird as fuck. But
it's a new series I just started on my page where I start the intro. I say, I've treated my body like a lab rat for the last 10 years. Here's my experience. Now, I'm kind of taking the torch on that and getting the negatives that come with it of just experimenting with different stuff. But I found out a lot of things that work really well too.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have to be the case where I have to go through and destroy my body to find out the right answers. I'm happy to do it because I honestly think it's fun. You know, nothing's killed me to date, knock on wood. But, you know, I really enjoy going through the process, learning about what capabilities are out there with the body and what you can do to, you know, really manipulate it. And that's everything I'm interested in, is that entire functional, integrative, regenerative space. And, you know, I think I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to it. I certainly don't see myself changing anytime soon.
Fuck yeah, bro. Yeah, it is strange, though, that we do have to make ourselves lab rats because all, like, us in the industry, we pretty much are all the same, bro. Like, we've all gone through the trials and tribulations. Originally, we started off looking at, like, random-ass bodybuilding forums, you know what I mean, to figure out our information or just listen to guys in the gym that were big as fuck selling trend. And it's like, it sucks that we had to learn that way and, like, put our body through all that stress when it should just be open knowledge. But, I mean, we really are all the same. Like, we've gone through the exact same shit. And if you do it this way, you will end up fucking up in the short term, at least. I've fucked up so many times with so many side effects in the short and long term I've run into. If you guys can see this gyno, it's fucking bad. Like, you see this shit? I still got to get the surgery, but this is what happens when you don't have your protocol in check in the beginning. Your estrogen, your prolactin is absolutely out of control. If you don't know how to mitigate these things, if you don't know how to properly dose out your cycle, first off, take AIs, take dopamine agonists, you're going to end up running into these sides. And it's like, I don't want to, like, getting gyno surgery sucks, bro. I don't want to have to get gyno surgery.
Have you gotten surgery?
No, I still need to get that shit. But if I do it in the States, it's like 10 grand or 8 to 10 grand, 8 to 15 grand. But if I go to like another country like Thailand or like Turkey, whatever, it could be like 800, 2 grand, but I got to go there and do that shit and take that risk. So it really sucks, and it really should be more openly known. There should be more education on this shit. It should be run by the government and these people to help people. But as we all know, they don't want to help us. They want to keep us pawns and just keep us moving with normal 9-to-5 shit. They don't want us to be anything above average.
Right. The worst thing for systemic, you know, government or any sort of organization to see is two things. It's free thinkers and experimentalists. If you're willing to push the boundaries and you're willing to try things that are not within the scope of what they prefer, you're not a cog in the machine. You're not there to move for what they want. You're starting your own path, and it's scary to them. Mm-hmm. And it's why, you know, we're in a tricky spot from our end because we go up against Big Pharma. Like, that is our direct competitor.
There's like no winning, bro.
There's the last people on the planet you want to fuck with, right? The absolute last people. So you kind of have to work in different ways, but we're seeing some really cool things, especially with the current regime in office. You know, like RFK is my guy. He's
Yes.
all about, you know, making things a little more legal when it comes to the peptides, the regenerative therapies, and everything like that. And he's a guy that even says, he's like, he said the statistic originally, the average testosterone level of a 60-year-old right now is higher than the average of a 20-year-old. A lot of people saw that stat on social media and they were like, okay, yeah, it's something to look at. When I tell you we have seen, I believe we're getting close to 10,000 people that we've tested, that is 100% accurate. The average guy that comes in over 60 years old to our clinic is usually sitting around 400, 500 tests, which is what you would expect of a 60-year-old man.
Yes.
You see an average 20-year-old, I'm not joking, the average score is about 350.
Like, I don't think you guys know how alarming that shit actually is. Like, for a young, healthy male back in the day, at least, before all this consumerism shit happened, like, their test levels were normal. Of a optimal 20-year-old healthy male, it should be in like the 500, 600s, bro. The fact that they're that low it's very alarming. And the fact that more and more statistics are coming out, I've seen them as well. That's not, like, there's something majorly wrong happening right now.
There's borderline hypogonadism. I think
Yeah.
hypogonadism is defined as anything under 300 nanograms per deciliter.
Yes.
If the average guy in his 20s is coming in 350, that's the biggest difference we see with guys is the guy who's 60, when he gets on T, he feels like when he was 20 because he had 1,000 tests when he was 20. That was normal. Everybody else right now that's, you know, under the age of 35 roughly, they've never felt anything above what they're at right now. They've only felt low T. So when they try it for the first time, that's when you see these crazy transformations because these guys that are going so hard in the gym, having a perfect diet, getting sunlight, doing all the right things, and they're not putting on muscle at the rate they want. Once their hormones get optimized to the right level that they're supposed to be at, you see these wild transformations.
Yes.
And you get all these crazy accusations of, oh, he's blasting gear, he's doing all this stuff. And it's like, all he did was fix his hormones. There's not rocket science to it. Now, there's definitely guys that go even further than that, and once they get their hormones in check, they start really taking a lot of the stuff you talk about on your channel.
Yes.
And there's something to be said about that as well. But at the main thing at the end of the day is your blood work's going to dictate everything inside your body. Do you get your blood done?
I do, and I just got it done recently. So right now, I've taken a lot of crazy-ass blasts in the past, but my most recent blast was 300 tests, 300 primo, I believe 250 mast, and then I was also taking Retta on the side. That definitely got me very shredded, but it also fucked with my bloods a little bit. Now, I know how to mitigate a lot of things now, but the only things that came up on my recent set of bloods was elevated blood thickness, so RBC, hematocrit, hemoglobin. This is very common for me.
You gotta donate blood.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. But also like nattokinase, like taurine, all these supplements, I can reduce it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I've donated blood so many times.
You take tadalafil or anything like that?
Used to. What? So it's
Not
a
the
weird
dick dose, but like, you know, just the healthy one.
Yeah. Just like 5. Like I used to take that
5 milligrams a
regularly,
day.
bro. For like
That's
2
good.
years, I was taking that to lower BP.
Yeah.
Also for crazy ass pumps.
Yeah.
But inevitably or eventually it started like making my nose very stuffy. It's just a side I run into with Cialis.
Really?
But I stopped taking it.
That's
My
common,
BP
though.
is definitely in range too, though. I got pretty good blood pressure, but I'm genetically prone to elevated blood thickness, which brings me to this next point where like everyone's going to have genetic issues, pre-existing issues. No one is a pitch perfect specimen. Everyone's going to have specific sets of problems that they are already dealing with before hopping on gear. If they decide to take TRT, if they decide to take gear, you have to get your bloods done pre-cycle or pre-TRT. This is absolutely mandatory stuff, guys. Like, you can't just hop into testosterone, TRT, or a blast, a cycle, which consists of a high-dose TR or high-dose test or anything above that, any other compounds you take. You have to get your bloods done. It is so goddamn important. It's the only thing, your blood work is the only thing that's telling you what's happening internally in your system. Without bloods, you don't know what the fuck is happening. There could be serious life-threatening things happening inside your body without bloods that you have no fucking clue about. The bloods is the only thing telling you this. Yes, there's a bunch of other tests to get, like your EKG, your echo, blood pressure checks, like all this shit. But the blood work is the thing that tells you what's happening inside of you, which is very fucking crucial. And me specifically, going back to my problem, I do have elevated blood thickness, RBC, hematocrit, hemoglobin levels. I come from a runner family. My mom and dad both run marathons. They used to. Wow. So I come from a very athletic family, and genetically, I was given that elevated blood thickness already. So that's something I always have to be worried about now. If I hop on gear, it gets fucking worse. This is always how it's been. Some people might have pre-existing issues to liver problems, kidney problems, to cardiovascular problems, cholesterol problems. Like everyone's going to be different. So getting those bloods done is so crucial for real.
Absolutely. And there's other things you can do with that as well. You can really dive down the rabbit hole. We do genetic testing. Have you done anything like that? Like,
no,
so
never.
You take a strand of hair and we can tell you top to bottom what foods you should and shouldn't eat based on your genetic makeup.
Oh, shit.
If you're someone who responds better to a carb heavier diet, a fat heavier diet, everyone's for a protein heavier diet. That's a whole nother category. I don't think anybody hits their protein goal unless they're going to the gym consistently.
Yeah, hell no.
It's horrible. And you have to like convince a lot of people. You're like, hey, like eat, 200 grams of protein a day if you're at 200 pounds. But you see some of these people eating, 30, 40 a day, and they're like, oh, I'm getting my protein. It's like, you're not doing shit. Right? But you can really go down the rabbit hole. The biggest shock that I found when I did the genetic test, I found out I can't have chicken.
No way.
I come from an Italian family. We had a lot of chicken parm.
Bro.
Like every freaking day was chicken. And I found out chicken causes inflammation in my gut. I later also found out from that same test I was deficient in like 9 of the 11 biomes in the gut. So your probiotics and your prebiotics. I'm a pretty healthy guy, right? Like I have a very clean diet. I exercise. I do all the things. I don't drink. I don't do any of that stuff.
Nice.
But I used to drink quite a bit. But don't give me too much. But I see I have all these problems in the gut lining. It's like I wouldn't have known that had I not gone through the measures to do that. And same thing, when you're going to your checkup at the doctor, when you're going to the hospital, if you ever end up there, they're not looking for this stuff. And it's the easiest way to prevent yourself from ending up back there is taking a proactive approach to this stuff as opposed to reactive. I think a lot of people are reactive when it comes to their health and their bodies. They wait for something to go wrong, and it's 10 times harder to fix it after it goes wrong than it is to prevent it. They say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes, bro. I make this point so often, especially when hopping on a blast or when getting on TRT. Like people, if they're not doing it the proper approach by going through a clinic and shit and just doing it underground, which 95% of people are going to do regardless, they wait for problems like you just said, bro. And that's the worst thing you can do. That's what I did when I started. That's why I developed gyno. That's why I've run into all these like horrific side effects, roid rage to the max. When I was first starting, like it was bad. I ruined relationships. I went through some crazy ass shit just because I didn't properly dial in my cycle and my protocol.
What compound did you notice the most the side effects from, especially the roid rage? I'm curious.
The roid rage, Tren and Halo combined.
You're asking for it there?
Yes, bro. When I took that cycle with both those combined, it was bad. Like I was just like punching concrete and like fought my dad pretty much. And it was just like not good, bro. Like shit that I would never do prior. And also you guys have to keep in mind, I was one of these retard kids that hopped on gear at a very young age. So that's why I say my dad, I was still living with my dad.
How old were you when you started?
I was 18 when I first touched this shit, and I would start off with SARMs, this fucking SARMs goblin, because you can just get it anywhere.
Go to a protein store.
Yeah, GNC, you go anywhere, you go to any like supplement shop, they're gonna have SARMs, and that's why it's so dangerous for kids, because it's not like getting gear is easy, but there's at least a barrier of entry. Like you have to at least be somewhat competent to figure out how to get the shit. But with SARMs, it's just like they hand it to you at supplement shops.
They got little pills. You can start popping them.
Yes,
like
they're
candy.
pills, bro. You don't have to inject, which makes it very common for kids to use.
A lot of people have a backwards mindset there. They see the pill. They're like, oh, okay, I won't inject anything, but I'll take the pill. Not knowing it is 10 times more harmful.
It's 10 times worse, bro.
It goes through the liver and processes through everything. It's a lot worse. I started with SARMs as well as what I did when I was in college. And
Damn.
I probably did it the worst way possible because at that time I was drinking, 6 nights a week.
I was too, bro.
And hammering these SARMs. I'm surprised my liver's still functioning, but there's a lot of things we can do to actually reverse a lot of that damage. Unfortunately, I had to go the reactive way on some of this stuff, but now I'm very proactive with it. Biggest thing for anybody who's using anything, steroids, testosterone, doesn't matter. I always recommend glutathione. Are you using any of this?
No, I haven't, but I've heard great things.
I'm going to send you a bottle.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's fantastic. I would give it to my mother, my grandmother. Everybody should be on glutathione. Anytime I feel a little sickness coming, anything, it is the master detoxifying agent.
That's very interesting. Tell me more about glutathione.
Glutathione is a vitamin. It naturally occurs in your body. The difficulty with it is you can't really get it from a diet. Like you can't eat clean and get more glutathione. Whatever your genetic availability is to glutathione is what you have. So when we have people come in, anyone who's on a testosterone protocol with us, we give glutathione included. especially
Oh,
when we
shit.
want to look at the liver enzymes and as well as kidney function. Everything that people talk about, like, oh, you're going to get on testosterone, you're going to have a heart attack when you're 40. I'm like, yeah, if you abuse it, right? If you go out for a drink with your buddies, are you going to die of alcohol poisoning? No, probably not. But if you take 40 tequila shots in a night, yeah, you might have some trouble. But there are things you can do to revert a lot of that. So glutathione is probably my most favorite supplement that I take just because it's so versatile. I hardly get sick anymore. I had something, I don't know, 2 months ago, and it took out, like 3 or 4 of my close friends, and they were like down for the count.
Damn, bro.
Down like bad. And could have been COVID, could have been the flu, who knows what it is. But there's a lot of things you can do on this side of things that aren't going to come from a doctor that will detoxify your body, and glutathione's one of them. So I would absolutely recommend 1,000% anybody who's taking anything, whether that's hormones or the steroids, to be on glutathione, because it's going to protect you from your own naivety, right? Like not knowing what you're doing. You can kind of hedge your bet, if you will, right?
That's amazing. So you are more like the peptide guy, bro. Like, I don't have that much extensive knowledge on peptides when it comes to like glutathione and all this shit. I mainly just stayed with the gear shit. Like, I know everything related to steroids. You're like the peptide guy. I wanted to touch on this. When it comes to SARMs, you were saying like, yeah, you were like drinking a shit ton and partying. I was the same exact way. I was taking SARMs and I was legitimately, bro, like I've gone through so much shit, but I was the biggest fuck up around that time, around like 16 to 18. Like, I was in and out of jail. I was drinking like 750 ml vodka a day, bro. Because I was just going in and out of stores, swooping bottles. Like, I was like, I'm an addict, heavy alcoholic, drug addict, all this shit. Mixing gear and SARMs and shit with partying is the worst possible thing you can do. And I'm saying this for everybody watching. Like, the amount of side effects I ran into, the amount of people I've seen that literally just like basically drop dead. I've had a homie die from this shit. It's insane, and it majorly increases the risk when you're partying and mixing gear or SARMs or any of these fucking things. It increases the risk that something very bad is going to happen to you. Gear itself comes with side effects. Getting your bloods done prior is crucial. When you're partying, you're not like, you don't get your bloods done to fucking party. You know what I mean? You guys don't understand how toxic partying actually is internally. It's way worse than gear could ever fucking be. And when you're mixing that with gear, which also is very toxic to your body if you're abusing it, of course, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if you have any stories about partying on fucking gear, but it's just bad.
When it comes to a lot of that stuff, yes, you can do it. There are ways to do it, and there are people who are genetically able to handle it. So when I got my genetic test done with my hair, I did notice that I wasn't able to have chicken.
Dude, I have to do that test.
However, one of the things I did see on there is my body can process alcohol very well, which is not a good trait really to have, to know that you're able to do that. Where most people, it basically just shows red, yellow, green on the colors next to it, on like how it's going to digest in your body and how it's going to react with you. And most people, like, a lot of the alcohols will be red, or a couple will be green. You're like, okay, I can only drink tequila or vodka. All of my alcohols were green, which delicious, which was cool to know that I didn't completely destroy myself while I was doing that. But most people are not that lucky. So I have some genetic advantage in that regard, but as a whole, I didn't have most of them. Like, when I was much younger, 10, 11 years old, I was a really good athlete, and I was faster than everybody. I was good at everything. And then as I got older, everybody just developed faster than me. I couldn't keep up. I was the small kid. I was small. I was skinny. My freshman year of high school, I think I was like 5'4", right?
Oh shit!
And
really?
I was like a $135, something like that. I was a small kid. And then everybody by that time was grown up, and I was upset because I wasn't able to compete at sports at the same level I was able to when I was younger. I still played, all through high school. But as I got older, I'm like, there's a good Tom Platz quote actually. He says, "I will not be a victim to my genetics. My genetics will be a victim to me." And he basically talks about, you can make any excuse in the world you want for this stuff, but there's things you can do to counteract your genetic disadvantages. Mine, you say you come from a family of runners. I am not, right? I am not a cardio guy. It's not my strong suit. But there's a lot of things you can take that will help your cardiovascular, that will help you have more stamina as you work out. And you don't have to resort to like a GW SARM that, it works great for a little bit, but you take that stuff long term and you can can really mess up your heart. But I would say the biggest thing for everybody to look at, number one, I think you touched on a great point, is get your blood work done. Look at these things like the genetic testing. There's the main genes you want to look at when you actually do a real genetic test. It's you ever heard of the motherfucker gene, MTHFR? It's basically the way that you methylate, right? So certain vitamins that you take, if you take methylated vitamins, your body absorbs them better. And you're going to want to look for this MTHFR stuff. And Gary Brecka talks about this all the time. And he's someone that, we've looked at and tried to emulate a lot of his practices, and there's things we do a little bit differently. And that's the kind of people in the health space I like to follow. He's not necessarily a lab rat for his own body, but he just studies this stuff. He's not a doctor, right? He is one of the leaders in the health space. Everybody knows if you're talking anything health, Gary Brecka is supposed to be the guy.
Interesting.
He's not a doctor. He's a scientist, right? He's a biological scientist or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he just understands the way the body works. This is the approach I think that we're going to start heading towards when it comes to health, when it comes to internal optimization. People are going to just kind of start taking what works as opposed to what the guy in the white coat says. That's something that's really exciting for us, and something that's really helped me personally, because now, 5-10 years later out of high school, everybody that was bigger and stronger than me, I now look way better than they do. Yeah, because they worked on genetics. I worked on okay, I have to make this happen myself. Now that comes down to a few different things as well. If a lot of these people don't exercise properly, their diets are shot because what they're told is good for you to eat mostly isn't good for you to eat. People are coming awake to this whole seed oil thing now, and that seems to be like the buzzword. Mm-hmm. There are some that are good, there are some that are bad, but there's always going to be a trend, right? 20 years ago, they told you that fat was the enemy. They said you can't have fats if you want to stay skinny. Now it's carbs. They're saying carbs are the enemy, the keto diet. And there's some truth to both of those things, but everybody's body is internally different. And that's why I think it's so important to do these type of tests, because you might have something completely different than what I have in terms of if my body processes carbs better than you, or if my body processes fat better than you. This goes all the way back to your ancestors, wherever they were living, 100, 200, 300 years ago, and what their diet consisted of. The issue with America is it's a melting pot of all these different cultures and all these different genetic makeups, and we've interbreeded with all these different, backgrounds, and now everybody's kind of whacked out a little bit. And the American health system's taking advantage of that, of just the unknown. And it's a little bit scary if you think about it, that most people, the doctors included, don't have a good enough idea of what happens within the human body and how to treat it. It's all symptom based. They're only trying to treat your symptoms. They're not solving the root cause of anything. So if you go to a doctor, you say, hey, I have a headache. He doesn't say, why do you have a headache? He says, here's something to make the pain of the headache go away.
That whole thing is so evil, bro. It's just going back to the whole thing about the health system, bro. It's not good. I mean, they really are just trying to keep everybody stuck. And doctors go to school to get these full-time jobs. They're just reading a script, you know what I mean? They're not actually trying to get to the root cause of problems like you're saying. They're just handing shit out to keep everyone average. It is very sad to see.
You have to be self-taught, right? And a lot of the best guys in the medical industry, a lot of them are self-taught. It's not something you pick up at medical school. Even when we're interviewing for medical directors, for nurse practitioners, for providers, when we're going through the interview process, we start asking them, hey, what's your experience with hormones? They're like, pretty low. I'm like, why did you apply for the job, number one? But number two, right? And then you start asking about some of these other regenerative therapies, and it's just not something they've ever been taught. So unless they learned from someone else that was just kind of like a passion project, they're not going to know. And that's the part where I think we're failing the most is, why do we not teach our medical professionals the internal mechanisms of the human body? And the most important factor is your hormones. It's your entire makeup. That is literally the difference between man and woman, is testosterone to estrogen balance, right? When someone wants to transition genders, they just give them the opposite hormone enough until they freaking change, and then they twist their shit inside out. So, it's crazy stuff. But why don't we learn about it? Especially in school, we learn about all this crap in health class that doesn't matter. Teach people something about what's actually going to benefit them.
At the very least, I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
I do agree with that.
Now with social media, the shit's getting picked up by the algorithm. People like us are coming out talking about this shit. It's just a matter of time before shit flips. It's never going to be the way it was, but it's just a matter of time before this gets mainstream and then stuff starts to slowly change. I think we are on the right trajectory, especially with RFK, like you were saying earlier. I think we are on the right trajectory, but it is going to take time. Everyone's so fucked. This is a big long switch that needs to occur.
So where do you see yourself fitting in with stuff like that? What's your goal with the clients that you work with?
So eventually, like in terms of all that shit, I think eventually I kind of want to do what you're doing, bro. Like start a TRT clinic, just get everyone like legitimately on this. I already work with people to get people on legitimately, but I do see so many of my guys come to me, so many of my followers, clients that come to me with these shot levels. I've seen it firsthand as you have. And it is very sad, bro. It's like the fact that they have to watch my content, the fact that they have to DM me telling me that they have these problems, literally apply for coaching with me just to fix this shit is fucked up. Like this shit, they shouldn't be doing that shit. It should just be normal the way it is. They shouldn't be experiencing any of these problems, but they legit have to go out of their way to ask a guy on social media for this. This is not how it should be. So inevitably, I think that I want to start probably TRT clinic, do the shit the legit way, and just help as many people as possible. That's the end goal with me. And I think the more people that do this, more people that spread the word about all the shit that we're talking about, I think that's how we're gonna slowly start transitioning the world into a better place, especially hormone-wise.
Yeah. Do you ever see things like steroids becoming legalized the way they are in other countries? Like, for example, you go to Mexico, if you go to a drugstore, and you say
everywhere,
you never left the country, but like
you get Trent in the fucking corner at, like with
anywhere,
a donkey and
literally
TJ,
anywhere.
bro.
Now, I'm not saying we should model ourselves after Mexico, but do you ever see it heading in that direction where you can kind of just get this stuff readily?
Bro, I don't know, to be honest. I think if there's a money incentive by Big Pharma and all these motherfuckers, then yes, for sure. But because there isn't, like, it's not going to happen. If there is, it's the same thing with cannabis and weed, bro.
Yep.
It became legal because there's a money incentive. If there's no money, they don't give a fuck about us. They want money. So it's like, if there's money involved, they will do it. The question is, how is that going to become a reality? I don't see it happening anytime soon. Maybe. What are your thoughts?
I would be interested to see what happens. I think you're very on the right track when it comes to if there's a financial incentive or they can tax the shit out of it, then there's a benefit for them. These are a lot of the reasons that I personally think, the American government system, it's not sustainable the way it is now because it's so infested by greed. And I think it was a Warren Buffett quote, actually, that it was really cool. It was something about the deficit, the national deficit. I don't know if you've seen this one, where he was like, I think I could solve the national deficit in a few minutes because we're trillions on trillions of dollars in debt. And he says, the new policy, any standing government official cannot be reelected if they show a loss or a debt in the deficit. Shit. And he's like, all of a sudden the debt would disappear because these guys' jobs are on the line, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, I don't know if that ever comes along. It's one of the biggest quandaries I have because for me, myself, and for my family and everybody like that, I physically know how to keep them alive longer. I could go to my parents right now, and I do this stuff, and I could say, I want you to take this, this, and this. You'll never have to go to the doctor. You won't get Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, by the way, one of the most preventable diseases on the planet. Same thing with cancer. It's really easy. And I could, if I wanted to, keep them alive longer, but it's so many steps to go out of the way versus you go to a place like Turkey. I have a buddy that lives in Turkey. He's a really successful guy. And they don't have cancer. It's just non-existent.
Wow, bro.
It's like, he's like, people don't get it. And they don't get Alzheimer's. And they don't get a lot of these problems that we have as we go into old age. And I wish I knew this before my grandparents went, because I'm like, a lot of the stuff that they were experiencing, I don't know if I could have prevented it, but I could have definitely prolonged a lot of their life and given them a higher quality of life. And, knowing that, it gives me a reason to kind of get out of bed every morning and be like, there are other lives out there to change. But I run through that difficulty of like, do I want to stay in America if I know that this is going to be my problem? We talked about, Dubai and other places like that, where I think that's where it's headed. I don't think, in 50 years, we'll be looking at America as the powerhouse of the planet anymore. And I think a lot of that will stem from things like the healthcare industry, the insurance industry, and even the direction of the economy is it's going to get so split between you're either rich or poor, right? The middle class is already pretty much assimilated. It's not there. And if you don't get to the rich by the time that happens, you're shot. You're like, you are just one of those, like you said, like the pawns, like the drones, one of the cogs in the machine, especially as robots and AI, everything starts taking over. Like, you are not going to have a job unless you are already set up for success. So I think there's not a better time to make that your priority. And I think that all stems back to these guys that are just weak and lazy and they don't have the motivation to do anything because they're shot out from everything they're doing.
Exactly, bro. Because it goes back to the whole thing of everyone being on low tests. Now, I think that if steroids were legalized, if you could just get this shit, think about how different our country would be. All these problems that people are running into now with fucking being depressed and low work ethic and being lazy as fuck and like having panic attacks and all this weird shit, ADHD. Bro, this shit would not be a problem if people just had optimal hormone values. Nothing would be happening right now. So think about if gear was legalized, and not just gear, I'm talking about like testosterone, like normal TRT to get your levels back to normal. Just think about how much better of a place this would be, how many problems that would resolve. And like people would it would be going back to normal, bro. And none of these problems that are happening now would be happening. But I feel like there's an agenda behind all this shit that's happening, and it's the consumer mentalities. All these problems are getting people on meds, and it's like a whole money machine, but it's fucking everyone up to the point where like they're on social media trying to find guys like us to fix them. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on that?
So I'll give you a devil's advocate of that. Is what if I were to say, well, you're just kind of pushing the same crap. You're looking to make a buck. How do you differentiate of who's the good guy and who's the bad guy when everybody makes a profit at the end of the day?
So you have to think about your lifestyle. What if you are balls deep in these habits, if you are giving into that consumer mentality, if you're fucking like watching porn, if you're eating junk food, if you are doing rec drugs, smoking weed, and you get on these meds, it's a Band-Aid to the solution. You might feel better temporarily, but look at your fucking life. You're a fat slob sitting on your ass, giving into instant gratification. It's either that or you pay someone a little chunk of money to legitimately better your life and allow yourself to live how you want to live and just better yourself for your whole fucking life. You know what I mean? And just be an actual man at the end of the day. These motherfuckers are 30 out here and they're children, bro. Like they're still giving into these habits. They're acting like children, low work ethic, just lazy. Like that's not how a man is supposed to be. A man is supposed to be the caretaker of the house, providing for his family, protecting his family. That's what we're supposed to do. This is what you have to do if you are a male. So you have to do whatever it takes to get to that fucking point. If you don't have it naturally, you have to fucking optimize your hormones. Nowadays, people are born with shot tests. It's just, that's how it is, bro. The shit you're eating, everything that you're doing, your phone, even just watching shit, like scrolling on social media, like this is all lowering test. So like, it's not your fault that you have low test. This is just the environment you were put in when you were born, but it's your job to fix that as a male. You have to make sure that you're doing whatever you can to protect and provide for your future family, for those around you, your inner circle, and to make sure that you're doing what you can to succeed in life. That's at least my belief and standpoint on this.
Yeah. So how do you, I guess, counterbalance that if you're saying these guys shouldn't be scrolling on social media and wasting all their time when we're both very active on social media?
I feel like with us, or at least for me, I'm trying to get people off social media. I'm trying to, like, my business, it lives in social media, but that's because all the people that are scrolling that watch my shit are balls deep in bad habits. If you are scrolling on social media, your habits, this is not a good thing to be doing. You're giving into instant gratification scrolling. My whole thing is I'm trying to get you into my system, into my echo chamber, so that you do end up bettering yourself. All my content is like self-development, bettering yourself, so that you get to the point where you don't need to be on social media. You can start producing instead of consuming, and you can be like one of us that's helping people get out of this fucking trap and this hole that 99% of America seems to be in at the moment. That's my viewpoint.
Yeah, my ideal scenario, right, is not to have to use social media. I use it right now as a means to kind of, like you said, spread the message. But, up until my freshman year of college, I don't think I had an Instagram post. Like, it was not something I innately found super interesting. We caught a little bit of traction when it came to the overtime page, and that was the first time I realized, okay, if you put a certain message out there, and we use a little bit of comedy, we use a little bit of all this, but it's kind of the jab, left hook approach to, where you a little bit of comedy, a little bit of value, right?
You got to do it. That's how you blow up.
Exactly. And I, would love to get to a point in my life where I don't need to be on it, right? Where I don't have to use it, because I do think it's not good for the brain. I don't think we were ever meant to see all of the world all the time. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to have any sort of self-esteem or to have any sort of level of security in yourself if you're only seeing the top 0.001% on your phone all the time. we were not meant to see this many attractive people.
Yes, I agree.
You go on your phone and you look at the women around you that you associate with, and then you look at these 10 girls on your phone and you're like, how come I don't have this? Right?
Yes.
And everybody thinks they should have what they see on their phone. It's such a small subsect of women, and all of those women are only going for the top 0.0001% of guys.
I fully agree. I feel like that's causing a lot of mental problems with males specifically, because it's like, it's completely unachievable. Even the shit you see on social media with fitness influencers and fucking models and shit, this is not real. This is not how they actually look like. Go look at a celebrity, their prime picture where they look like really fucking good, and it's like a chick with like big, like nice, perfect tits and like a big ass. You know what I mean? You look at them in person and they look awful, bro. This is like the representation of people on social media is not actually what they look like. And I feel like that is causing a lot of like depression and shit, especially in young males, because they just feel like it's so out of range to achieve that. And it's like, it's not even fucking real, bro. Like, just do what you can to get the right woman in your life that is going to help you and propel you forward to success. That's what you should be looking for. The stuff on social media, it's really just like algorithm rage bait shit to get people to like. Everyone wants to see like a bad bitch, or if you're a girl, you're trying to see like a hot dude. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it does cause problems, I think.
And there's a cool stat. They did a study on like Hinge, one of the dating apps that swiped, and it said the top 50% of the most liked women only swiped right on the top 10% of men. So the full split was the top 20% of men were getting 80% of the swipes from women.
Wow.
So that's a general rule in a lot of things called the 80-20 rule, but the top 20% of men are getting 80% of the swipes. So if you're not in the top 20%, you're basically kind of left with the shit that's left, right? And that's where people get things like depression, and that's where they start questioning themselves. They're like, why am I not as good as how come I can't get these women? And internally, you think the logic would be, okay, I'm a dude who I'm in the 50th percentile, right? I'm not shit. I'm not amazing. I'm kind of right in the middle. You would think I should also get a woman who's kind of right in the middle, and vice versa, right? If you're a 50% woman, you think I'm going to get a 50% dude. The exact opposite is happening, where it's like you have these dudes that are maybe in the 80th percentile or 70th percentile. So let's say you're 7 out of 10 on the, how good of a dude are you? And you are still having to fight for the 3 out of 10 women, because all of these dudes are giving all of their attention to all of these women all day. Yes. Because of social media, you have access to everywhere. There's no such thing as like the small town hot chick anymore, because she's now getting flown out here to Miami by all these rich dudes that found her on social media because she looks good in a couple pictures. It makes it next to impossible, and I think it's part of the issue we have in dating, especially today. And a lot of women even suggest, I live in Tampa, and there's a connotation in Tampa where it's like the dudes want to be treated like women, like they call it princess treatment, right? The dudes all want to be catered to, because the top 20% of dudes, they're getting the experience of what it's like to be a woman. They're getting all this gratification. They're getting all of these compliments from all of these women who are only fighting for this small subset.
Yeah.
And it's so common now, and I think it's why dating culture has made such a shift. And this is what leads to people saying, fuck it, I'm just going to take shit tons of gear so I can get jacked. And half the time, the chicks they're going for don't even give a fuck about it, right?
Yes.
You get to a certain point of being big where it's like you're just like big, right? It's if you added an extra 20 pounds of muscle, it's the same chicks, you're just going to be the big guy.
100%.
They don't know the difference.
Yeah, I think that you're right. A lot of these people, they're like not socially the right way, or they're just very insecure. They feel like they can't achieve this. Well, what you're looking at isn't even fucking achievable for anybody, because it doesn't actually exist. Like, these chicks, yeah, they're bad, but they're not the way they portray themselves on social media. So I think that with people trying to better themselves, self-improve, all you should be doing is bettering yourself each and every day to get to the point where you can attract the right woman for you. So, and that does come back to the optimizing your hormones thing, because again, everyone's shot. You have to be in a good place to be like sexually attractive to the opposite sex. You have to optimize your hormones, get to that point where you're giving off that energy, confidence. You look good. You don't look like a fucking slob. And at that point, you can get what you want, and you'll attract the right person to you. You don't have to chase this shit. the right person will fall into your life. The right female will come to you when the time is right. That's why I think that these dating apps, like when you were talking about that shit, it is so evil, bro. Oh, yeah. The whole industry behind it is evil. And I think that anyone that goes on there is just going to have such a letdown when it, like I tried a dating app once and it was a horrific experience, bro. Like you pay money, to like, I guess, get better access to girls or some shit. Yep. And it's like, it's just a free for all. Like you're just basically going on there to fuck a chick real quick and then get off the app.
It's exactly
like,
what it is. Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean?
I was on them for a little bit, especially in college. It was really popular at my school. And it took out all of the social interaction. There was no go up to a chick in class or say like, hey, what's your number? It's, let me see if I see her on whatever the fuck I'm swiping on right now.
It's so
and you
bad.
Get addicted to it because it makes it easy. It's not hard today to have sex with a lot of women. I think a lot of people look at it as in like this scarcity mindset that they have to like scavenge up as many women as they can have sex with. And that's why there's such like a weird like hookup culture going on, because we've glorified the fact of, look at this guy, he bangs all these chicks. The Hugh Hefner type, like, oh, he's the man. And sure, that's cool, but you talk about attracting the right woman. What is that to you? Like what is the right quality?
The right woman is going to be someone that holds you down. It's going to be someone that holds you accountable, that keeps you grounded so that you can continue on your grind and keep bettering yourself every day until you get to that pinnacle point to where you can do whatever the fuck you want. That should be all our end goal, is to be financially stable, to not have to worry about money first and foremost, to look good, to be able to, again, going back to my point, protect and provide for your family. And you want someone directly next to you that whole time guiding you through that shit. If you are single and your mind is still on females and like trying to like hook up and do this shit, it's just not going to work, because that shit is such a leech of energy. If you give into that shit, it's major distraction. You can still be single and do this shit, but I'm just saying, if you have the right person with you that's going to hold you accountable, it's going to make it a million times easier. And that's where optimize your hormones comes into play, because like, let's be real, you're not going to attract that right person if you're balls deep in bad habits, if you're a fucking slob. You're going to attract a slob if that's how you operate, if that's how you look. You're going to attract someone exactly like that, and you guys both are going to bring each other down into a spiral and just lose. You're going to keep each other losers and average. You have to better yourself first, and then that's when you get the right person, and then you guys both propel each other.
I would give you a counter argument to that, because I see a lot of times where it's not two similarities. A lot of times it's opposites that attract, right? Because you'll have either a really good dude or a really good chick, and they'll end up with someone you're like, why are you with them, right? And oftentimes it's just the anchor that brings the other one down. Yes. I do agree that you'll spiral each other downward, but I don't usually think it's two people that are pieces of shit, right? It's one person that's a piece of shit, and then the other one wants to fix them for whatever reason, for whatever thing they went through when they were younger. They want to fix this person that's having a rough go at it right now. And that is the single, in my opinion, worst task you can take on, is trying to bring someone up out of the shit gutter.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Because you're 9 times out of 10, you'll just end up there with them.
Yeah.
There's a Dan Martell quote. I love Dan. You know Dan Martell?
I don't.
He's a YouTuber on YouTube and Instagram and everything like that. And he's a very business guy, but he's also jacked, so I listen to him.
Hell yeah.
But he says there's two people. There's energy givers and energy takers. And he said, I started following this advice, changed my life. It's like, if you just stop associating with energy takers, no matter who they are, it could be your brother, your mother, your sister, whoever. If you stop giving all of your energy to energy takers and only do it with people who give you energy, the shift in your output, the shift in your outlook on life drastically changes into, what can I give, as opposed to I have to keep scavenging. What can I take? Because your energy is just flying out the door to all these people that are taking it. Now, that doesn't mean if your brother is not an energy giver that you should just never talk to him again. But don't feed into that bullshit, right? Like, don't feed into the negativity. Yes. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent talking to either former friends or, whoever, and just trying to be like, hey, like, they're asking my advice, or even if they're not. And I'm like, hey, like, all you have to do is just make this one shift. And then you're like, okay, what can we do to make this shift? And you give them all the advice, and they're just like, yeah, well, I don't know if I'll be able. And just like, you got to try. If you don't make any sort of effort, it's never gonna even start. And
100%.
people are so afraid of starting that they'll never even try. They're afraid of failure is the thing. They say fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. And I think that's really true. And it was something even for me that I struggled with, especially when starting social media. When we made our company, the original thought was we're going to have like a stand-in actor who's going to be, the front man, who's going to be the face of the company. We were like, we're a little young. We might want somebody older to demonstrate the company and everything like that. And our social media guy was like, hey, like, there's a lot of really good founder-led content out there. I think you guys should do it. We're like, I don't know. Well, we did it. And had we not had him to give us that little nudge, we probably wouldn't have, and we wouldn't be in the situation we are today where we get to work with all these big celebrity clienteles because our Instagram does well. And that for me was a bit of an awakening. It's like, holy shit, like how many things have I bitched out of because I was afraid of it not going well that could have completely taken my life in a new direction. So when I feel that now, when I feel that little fear come in, I'm just like, just try it. If you fail, who cares?
100%. I've been through that so many times, bro. I've always been a risk taker. That's what got me in so much trouble. That's also what has propelled me to success many times, have lost everything and came back. But I've always been a risk taker. I feel like once I started taking like tests, I'm not even gonna lie, once I started optimizing my hormones, getting on gear and shit, like I just took in more incredible risks than normal because like fear kind of goes out the fucking window.
It anymore, yeah.
You don't have it, bro. So it's like you overall just become, again, more of a man. You start taking those risks. You start doing what you want. So you start that business. You talk to that girl. You do what you got to do to propel yourself to success. And it just makes it a lot more easier to do this.
Well, a lot of people think people take gear and tests and all this stuff, and they only look at the physical change. Hands down, what we tell everybody who comes in is the number one change you're going to get is not physical, it is mental.
Mental, 100%.
You are going to be the guy. And that changes everything in your life when it comes to your body, your relationships, the way you interact, the way you do business, everything.
Yes.
You talk about fear going out the window. Holy shit, was that a revelation for me when I was just like,
bro.
If it fails, who gives a fuck, right? Like you have enough security once your levels are optimized, once you feel that, that T, you don't care if you look like an idiot because I would way rather look like an idiot for 30 seconds than live my whole life like a schmuck who never tried.
And regret.
It's not even close. And the amount of people that do it because that's the path of least resistance is horrifying. So we see these clients come in when they're telling us, hey, you changed my life. It's not because they put on 10 pounds of muscle. It's because their marriage is better. It's because they got a promotion at their job because they weren't afraid to ask for it or they were willing to go the extra mile. We say all the time, testosterone is the hormone in the male body that makes effort feel good. When you have low T, effort becomes scary. Effort's a drag. You have to drag yourself to the gym. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning. When you have high T, you kick the fucking sheets off the bed in the morning. You are ready to go. You go to work. You're like, how can I excel every day? How can I, be better for my wife? How can I be a better dad? Holy shit. If that's the life you get to walking around living every day, and you're telling me all I have to do is go check my levels every once in a while, are you fucking kidding me, right? But it's so taboo. It's like, you're on steroids. It's like, I am changing my fucking life out here.
Yeah. You really do become a workhorse on this shit. Like, I've always had a grind mentality. I've always wanted success to better myself, but it wasn't until I started optimizing my hormones until it really started becoming like fucking real. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, effort becomes easy, bro. Like just getting up, like I used to wake up at 3:30 a.m. every morning and start the fucking grind. Back when I was like first getting on and when I looked like shit, and I was just bettering my physique. Like I was getting up 3:30 a.m. every morning, hour of cardio, do 2 hours of lifting. Like I was going really hard, bro. And then I would just work the rest of the day on business. You know what I mean? And then I'd go to bed, do the same fucking thing over again. But I loved it. I loved the process.
You don't crash.
No crash. It feels amazing doing it. It's like, I want to do this. I want to better myself. Your life becomes a game. It's like you're not even in fucking reality. It's like you're playing a game and you're the main character of that game.
That's the biggest thing you start to notice. You hear guys all talk about the game. I think that was Hormozy's original podcast name. It's called The Game.
Really?
He started talking about his business experience, and that's another guy who took fitness and all of that and turned that into business and then learned about business and went forward. I probably listen to more Hormozy than anything. Right?
He's a legend.
Guy's the man. And one of his greatest things is like, he's so blunt with it. He just doesn't veer away from the harsh truth, which for a lot of guys is you're just soft, right? At the end, no one wants to hear it. Mm-hmm. But like the things that you want, they require a level of discipline. They require a level of doing things, of risk taking, that you can fool yourself into thinking that you're making these calculated decisions that, oh, I'm not doing that because it's not the right time. That's a soft mentality to me, right?
Yes.
And then people have this audacity to say, oh, I think I deserve more for how hard I work. And as another Hormozy quote, he says, you deserve exactly what you have. The only things you have is what you deserve. That is what you've accomplished. Maybe things haven't gone your way, but nothing goes perfect for anybody.
Yes.
But to make the statement that, oh, I deserve better, he deserves better, she deserves better, it's not real, right? They deserve what they have created for themselves. And that's when it turns into a game, exactly like you talked about. And that shift, when you start taking testosterone, for me, it came around the second or third month. The first month, you just kind of really feel good in the gym. You're getting the extra pumps and all that stuff's good. But then when the mental kicks in and life literally turns into a game, it's like, what can I do? What can I change from my life to make this outcome happen?
Yes, bro. You start creating your own reality. Whatever you want, you can manifest that shit into reality. It's like, did you ever play GTA 5 as a kid?
Put a lot of hours on that.
Bro, I did too. It's like, we're literally out here living that shit in real life now. And it's like, you really can do whatever you fucking want once you start holding yourself accountable and you tell yourself, the only reason why this outcome is happening is because of me. You literally control everything that happens in your life. So whatever position you're in, whether look, some people have it worse than others. They're born into poverty. Some people are born with advantages, but you are there because of you. You can literally change whatever the fuck you want about your life. You just have to do that shit. So if that means that you have to go get your hormones checked and get your hormones optimized, and that's what you have to fucking do in order to start building out what you want with your life, with your business, with your body. It comes down to your own decisions. If you're too much of a fucking pussy and you're not going to do that, then have fun being average, because if everyone around you is average, if that's what you want, then that's what you're going to get. Because if you don't do anything to change anything or start putting in the fucking work to get to where you want to be, you will stay average and you will die a loser at the end of the day. And the last thing you want is to be on your deathbed regretting all these decisions that you made, instead of just taking that jump, taking that risk, doing what you need to do to win. You don't want to be sitting there fucking regretting everything at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you've taken a risk. You've built up a big social media page. You never went the corporate America route, and you're 23 years old, and you're doing a great job at it. So when did you start social media? Was it after you started taking stuff like steroids and testosterone and everything?
So I deleted, I was on Instagram and Snapchat a while ago. This was when I was 13, 14, back when this shit just started popping off. I think I was 10, 11 or somewhere around there when Instagram first came around. I was on those apps. Then I started slowly seeing that I was only on the app to impress other people when I was a kid. So I'm like, why the
Pretty
fuck am I?
self-aware thing to have at that
Yes,
age.
yes. My life has gone very quick, bro. People I'm 23, but people
why you
think
look 30?
yeah, people think I'm 30 for the way that I am and operate and shit. But
Yeah.
it's my life has gone quick, bro. I started being aware of this. I'm like, why the fuck am I actually posting this for other people? So I completely wiped out my page. I was like, I really don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. And to be honest, I went down this whole self-improvement rabbit hole at I think 15, no, I think it had to have been 16, 17 years old.
About one hit for me, yeah.
Yeah, I wiped out my social media. I deleted everything. I cut everybody off. I used to hang out with a bunch of drug addicts. When I was 15, 16, I was hanging out with 25-year-old fucking meth addicts, bro. I was taking crystal at some point when I was that young. And I got hooked to it. Like I said, I'm a fucking addict. So I had to cut everybody off. I cut all those motherfuckers off. And the only people I kept near me were two motherfuckers. And those were the guys that actually cared about me and that I had known for a long time and that wanted to see me succeed and that wanted to succeed themselves. That's the only energy I kept around. So that's what ended up manifesting. Like you were saying, bro, you can't have people around you that are dragging you down, that are low frequency mentalities. They will pull you the fuck down. You need to surround yourself with winners too that have that mentality. Even if they're not there, they got to have that mentality of wanting to win.
Thinking about it, yeah.
And that's how they get there.
So you would say you started social media around high school time?
So that's when I was just doing it, being a consumer. So I wiped it all out. Then I did start I used to do drop shipping. This was when I was 18, 18 years old. I hit a successful drop shipping company. It was called Serene Falls. So I already have knowledge with marketing and shit like that. I put all my effort into that shit, bro. I came out with $250,000 in
Didn't
profit.
go to college?
Didn't go to college,
Good for
but
you.
I took that. So the original plan was to go into the military. I actually passed the ASVAB, and I was about to be like enlisted, bro, in the Navy. But last second, my boy was like, bro, you have to try this drop shipping shit. I tried it, ended up working. I got like $2 in profit, and I'm like, how the fuck did this, like, how did this happen, bro? Like, I'm sitting behind a computer and I just made $2 profit out of thin air. So at that point, I knew I wanted to do the online business thing. Started this dropshipping company. In like a half a year, bro, I already had a $250,000 profit. I sold the company, and like I was just a little fucking hood rat bawling. You know what I mean? Like I got a, yeah, dude, literally. So I got a Hellcat. I was just like, I went back to drugs. I started like going really bad. Like I was in and out of jail. I did, I think 6 separate times I was in and out of fucking jail. Wow. I ended up doing a 2-month sentence. This was for evading and 3 DUIs. So it wasn't for actual like crimes, but it was just like stupid fucking adrenaline rush junkie shit. You know what I mean? So I did that, and that it definitely changed my life, because I knew at that point it was either I keep going down this path and I keep fucking up and I land in prison, or I got to switch everything around and just do things the right way. So that was probably the biggest life experience that helped guide me in the right way than any college could ever have fucking taught me, bro. That experience in itself formed me to who I am today. So going back to your point, I had knowledge with social media, with blowing up accounts, all that shit. I did this to like 3 or 4 separate accounts, but it wasn't until that Serene Falls incense waterfall thing, it wasn't until then that it actually blew up. So that happened, got off social media again, sold the fucking company, and then it was like a year ago or 2 years ago now, I think it was about a year ago, I started Diago Fit, which is my current page. Keep in mind, I already have knowledge with marketing and doing shit. So I started my page and I'm just posting what I like to do. I like fitness. Fitness helped me once I got out of jail. I devoted my whole life to optimizing my hormones, getting my body right, self-improvement. And I just started a page, bro. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm fucking training. This is how I'm dieting. That shit's oversaturated. No one gives a fuck. So then I started filming like, this is my cycle. That's how it fucking went, bro. And now I teach people all around the world how to properly mitigate size when it comes to their cycles, how to properly get blood work, how to read blood work, how to run this shit and not fuck yourself up in the long term, pretty much is what I do.
You got to tell me, quick sidebar, what was meth like?
It was crazy as fuck, bro. So think about any upper you could possibly take, Adderall, cocaine, just multiply that shit by 10 and it lasts for like 8 hours. So it got to a very bad point. I think I was on for about 2 or 3 months daily, because once I get hooked on something, it's over, bro. I'm just fucking on it. So I was like, I got very anorexic. I was just ripping that shit, bro. I wasn't injecting it. I had homies injecting it into their fucking neck, but I was just snorting it. So I was taking the powder, and it got to a point, bro, where on the last day that I took it, I took like 2 ounces. I snorted that shit down the hatch, and it just, like, my nose started gushing with blood. I think I ripped a hole in my septum as well from this shit. But blood just started gushing out of my nose, and like my heart was like really started like fluttering and shit. And I was like, this is not good. So, and I was also in my parents' house at this time. I was a kid. I was a fucking kid, bro. I was in the bathroom. They know this was
going on, or?
No, they had no clue.
How do they not know kids on meth?
So I locked myself in my room, bro, because they were like kind of like controlling, you know what I mean? I used to fuck up a lot as a kid. I kind of just was locked in my room for the majority of the time. So I'm on this shit. I come down. I'm like borderline, like having a heart attack. And I'm like, I got to go to the hospital. Like, I think I'm fucking ODing. I'm just looking at the walls and I see like angry faces, like screaming faces and crying faces coming at me. I look down at my arms. There's worms, like maggots that I'm seeing that are eating my skin. I feel that shit too. It's like ants crawling on you, bro. Yeah. And I just see worms like eating inside of my skin. It was the worst thing of all time, bro. But
oh my God,
that experience, like all these things have formed me to who I am today. And this is why I am sober. I don't partake in recreational drugs. I try to steer people so far away from rec drugs as possible. Unlike motherfuckers out here like Togi and all these people that are directly promoting this shit, it's very dangerous for society. Because if you do have an addicted personality, or if you're just a kid and you're taking this shit, like you fuck yourself up bad to the point where sometimes it's not recoverable. You can fry your fucking brain. You become one of these tweakers on the side of the road, like a crackhead, just fucking like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I swapped out alcohol for a little while. When I was in high school, I smoked a lot of pot and I drank a lot. I got suspended from school twice, once for pot, once for alcohol. That was not exactly a peaceful trip for my parents either. But what I've been doing lately, and I'm curious your take on this, is I haven't been drinking at all. But when I go out, I do a little microdose of mushrooms. And I find that very stable. I'm in complete control. I can do whatever. I don't do stupid shit. Like I don't throw up on anything. I don't like make bad decisions. I just feel great. I mean, for something like that, do you view that as a recreational drug, or like, for me, I feel like it gives me kind of like a higher mental state, because mushrooms is one of the only drugs that actually increase neuroplasticity. You know, alcohol kills the brain cells, pot kills the brain cells. Mushrooms actually create new pathways in the brain.
It's like psilocybin mushrooms.
Correct, yeah.
So I think that if you have self-control, if you're a normal ass person, your brain is wired properly, I've heard a lot of benefits. I have some clients that do that shit too with major success. But when it comes to like myself and people who are addicts and like drug addicts and have that addictive mentality, anything you take that alters your mentality, you're going to get hooked on, bro. At one point, I was also taking mushrooms and acid every fucking day for probably 7 months straight when I was a kid. When I was like, it was all in that same time frame of like 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. It was like a year straight, bro. So, and that definitely fucked with me mentally, like really bad, to the point where it was like, I thought I was permanently just stuck in a trip type shit, because I was.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize I was doing it. It was just like happening. So if you have that self-control, if you are wired normally, it can work. I'm still going to steer people clear from it, because in my eyes, yes, it is technically like a rec drug. It comes from the ground naturally, but like if it alters your mentality, it can be addictive, bro.
Do you think that addiction is something that you're born with, or do you think addiction is something that just requires a certain level of will and can be trained to not be addictive?
I think that addiction, to be honest, when it comes to like genetic addiction, it runs through my whole mom's side of the family. Everyone is fucking addicted to some shit, bro. My grandpa died from being alcoholic. My grandma died from emphysema for being addicted to cigarettes. All my cousins are drug addicts. My uncle is a fucking alcoholic meth addict. Like it just runs in that side of the family. Mental issues, schizophrenia, all this shit too.
Do you think that's genetic, or do you think that because there's so many examples of addiction that they're like, oh, I guess we're addicts, and it might be more of a placebo?
I think it could be both, to be honest. I think me personally, once I started optimizing my hormones, bro, I haven't been addicted to shit anymore. Like I've had a couple social drinks here and there. That's it. It's like, then it's back to the grind.
Right.
You know what I mean? I still don't think you should do this if you have an addictive personality, but I haven't touched rec drugs since I've been a kid. I'm not taking that fucking risk. But when it comes to just like drinks, having a social drink, I have self-control now, bro, to the point where I can take that drink, put it down, and then just go about my fucking day. Like I never had that before. It was just like, once I had that drink, it's down the hatch. Now I'm drinking 2 liters of fucking vodka. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. Well, that's kind of why I lean into that. And I say that because I hear people say this all the time, is I have an addictive personality, or addiction runs in my family. I have a take on it that, yes, if you accept that as your reality, then that's what it is. Then you are subject to exactly what you just said.
Yes.
That you're an addict. You are whatever you tell yourself you are, right? Self-talk, you hear people talk about this all the time, is you are what you think about most, and the law of attraction, right? What you are, what you think about. So if that has become an excuse that your parents have ingrained into you from day one, it's like, hey, don't drink because alcoholism runs in this family. As soon as you have your first drink, you're going to be like, oh, guess I'm an alcoholic, right? Where I see it more as, yes, that can be the case, but I think it's a longer chain of, we've just accepted this as our reality, and I think if you did mental work on it, you would be able to escape it, is my take.
That's a very good take. That's a good look on it, brother. I haven't thought of. But yeah, it could be that too, you know what I mean? That is something I got to work on, is my mental state. I've been so dialed into my grind and work and just progressing my physique and shit. I haven't given a single time to my mental state, bro. So my shit is all over the place. You can ask my girl. She knows it front hand, bro. I can be really bad and really good. You know
Well,
what
that's
I mean?
a really big part of optimization as well. It's like, yes, of course, the physique stuff is what everyone sees on Instagram, but the mental is what's going to keep you for the long haul, right? Like if you're walking around jacked out of your mind, but you're a psychopath, what's the point? You're not the optimal male. You are not optimized. You're not what you've described before as the provider, the leader of your household. You're not that at all. You're just jacked, right? Which is cool, right? Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to be jacked, but you got to take care of this up here too. And especially when it comes to steroid use, this is where I think people get the most wrong done, is it's almost been like kind of romanticized being manic. You know, you see like the
Yeah.
Trend Twins, Manic Mike,
Yeah.
right? And they talk about like, oh, like the voices in the head, and it's like a fun thing almost. It's like, oh, I'm going insane, right? I'm going fucking nuts. And sure, it's fun for a little while, but if you let that take over your life, you bet your ass your body's about to go down the toilet.
Yeah.
Because you're not sleeping, you're not going to eat right, and your brain controls your entire nervous system, every muscle in your body. You know, if it's not in check itself, it's not sustainable to be the guy that you want to be.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things you can do when it comes to that. One of those, of course, is glutathione. I'm always going to recommend that. Popular one also that we move a lot of is NAD+.
I've heard a lot of good things about this one.
Shit rips.
Yeah, bro.
Oh my gosh. So that wasn't something I started until I owned my own company. When I was with my other company before, they didn't have it. It's one of the things that we added in. I was like, we have to have this. I originally saw it, of all places, was on freaking TikTok, and it was Kim Kardashian talking about how she or one of the Kardashians, Kylie Jenner, or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. And because they do all the longevity thing. Anything they do, everybody else is going to start doing it,
Exactly.
right? And they talked about how they use that for anti-aging, for their skin, but the biggest thing you get out of it for me is cognitive benefits. We have people that come in all the time that are on ADHD medication or antidepressants, and we can put them on NAD+, and all it does is it affects the mitochondria to make yourself able to reproduce cells at the rate that you did when you were younger. You know, when you turn about 25 years old, your cells stop reproducing at such a fast rate. That's why your skin wrinkles. That's why you get cognitive decline. So if you can give your cells the ability to reproduce at the same rate they did before, your cells stay fresh and you're locked in. You get this like clean, focus that you wouldn't have unless you did something like Adderall. But on Adderall, you're tweaked out. You're kind of like frantic.
Such an unhealthy habit, bro.
NAD does the opposite of that. It gives you that similar level of focus and energy, but you're not tweaked out. It's just sharp. And it's one of the most popular things we have now. And that's something I think gets overlooked at a lot because it doesn't fit in one of those categories. It's non-hormonal. It's not a peptide. It's not a steroid. It's technically a coenzyme. And these are a lot of the areas that it's just like, who's talking about that? Like no one's talking about it unless you are either selling it or you've got a company that does it. But if more people knew about this, we wouldn't have the entire youth hooked on Adderall or all these psych drugs to help them focus because they can't work their freaking brains.
Yeah, it just comes back to the money thing, bro. Like if there's no money incentive for Big Pharma to do it, they're not going to fucking do it. But I kind of wanted to switch the topics over to like craziest cycles. I think that's going to be good to touch on.
Absolutely.
I want to hear what your craziest blast is that you've ever taken, bro.
Yeah. I will say the craziest thing I've done, well, the most reckless thing I ever did was SARMs, right? When I was in college, and I did a healthy bit of them. So I ran, and that was the first time I ran anything. It was the first time I ever touched anything.
Okay.
And I had the same stupid mindset that everyone else was like, oh, it's just the pills, right? It can't be that bad.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me at the freaking supplement store. I did Rad 140, I did LGD, and I did MK at the same time. MK I actually can get behind today. I think is totally fine.
think MK is great.
I think MK is totally fine.
And it's not classified as a SARM. It's a GH security-gog for everyone out there. So
yes,
you can totally take MK and be fine. But let's.
So I did that, and I was doing that while I was drinking super heavy. So I got bigger. I gained 25 pounds on that in a pretty short amount of time, which was great.
Do you remember the dosage?
Yeah, it was, I believe, 30 milligrams or 40 milligrams a day of RAD, and then another 30, 40 of the LGD, and then I think it was 20 of the MK. So I never did anything super crazy.
Really?
But I did do a little bit of NPP while I was doing testosterone, and that had very similar effects. That gave me just like a lot of size, right? What I did notice is anything I do that is a DHT derivative, my hair comes clean off.
Yes, that's very common.
Gone.
Very common side with DHT.
So I've tried things like Anabar before. All of the things that you can prescribe medically, I've tried. So NPP you can get right now from a doctor, right? They use it in much smaller doses than I was taking. I was doing, I kind of had it backwards. This was when I was like a very more lab rat, where I didn't know what to look for, and ChatGPT didn't exist yet. So you had to like Google it and like see what other people were saying, or listen to your buddy. And I was doing like 300 NPP, but only 200 tests, and you're supposed to keep your NPP lower than your T.
Yes.
So I ended up getting a prolactin-induced gyno. Now I was able to get rid of that with cabergoline and things like that, but that gave me some weird mental effects. So I would say between those two, the SARMs made me look the most disfigured because I was doing them horribly, But the NPP gave me the worst mental effects. I was doing the NPP and the test at that time. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, at like 1:30 in the morning, and I just wouldn't go back to bed.
Oh shit!
I just
really?
didn't sleep. Yeah, I just did. I didn't, and it would happen a few times a week, and it was around the time when we were looking at starting this company. So your mind is just racing for like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? And as soon as you wake up and you've got a thought about the business, like you don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
But I would also get agitated. I didn't have roid rage, but like little things I would just be like just annoyed by. And then I would have the complete opposite, like small things that are like just like little nice things that would happen. I would be like overjoyed. So it really accentuated like my emotions. And I would say that was probably the most insane feeling I ever had. But I try not to do anything crazy like that. Like I've never done tren, I've never done mass. I've never done
really?
No.
So you haven't really experimented?
No, I haven't, and it's mostly because of my experience with the lighter ones. Because I know if I took tren, I'd be bald.
Yeah,
like it would be gone. I have been able to restore a good bit of my hairline, but you can see, it's even not perfect now. I've got
that's not bad at all, bro. That's like compared to some of my clients that have come to me, new clients, that have complete male pattern baldness that are like ready to fucking.
I had it pretty bad at one point. At one point it was like all the way back here where the peaks were.
Oh shit!
But luckily in the clinic, we can restore your hair. We have the micro needling, so I did stem cells and PRP.
Yeah, bro.
So I was able to get my hairline pretty close to back, but for a while, there's a picture of me out there somewhere where you can like just see straight into my scalp, and I had long hair. It was pretty brutal.
There are definitely, with hair regrowth, DHT derivatives, these are going to be the worst when it comes to hair loss, acne, masculine-related side effects. Whenever you take a DHT derivative, this is going to increase androgenicity. So that means that you're going to get more masculine traits out of it, facial hair growth. You're going to like get a more square jawline, overall be more masculine. But it comes with those negatives too, like the hair loss, the acne, the oily skin. I'm surprised that you haven't run more insane cycles, but when it comes to the NPP, I think that a lot of your mental sides were probably prolactin induced. You said you got prolactin reduced gyno.
Yeah,
it
I wasn't
probably
taking
was
any Caber during the time either.
Exactly. So, and I've run into these things too. My second major cycle was testecadebol, your classic bro bulk.
Yep.
That fucked me bad, bro. I looked like a whale first off. Well, to other people's standards, it wasn't like a whale. I was still like, because I started off as a skinny kid, so I was still like, you know what I mean, like presentable, but I was very fluffy.
Yep.
But I got all the mental sides. I got an increase of estrogen, increase of prolactin. Now your dosages, you've taken this shit very light, bro. Like I said, I come from a background of taking massive risks. I took fucking meth in the past. So it's like I also was taking risks here, but I learned along the way. Now I don't take these risks anymore because now I am prioritizing my health. But when I started, I most definitely was not, bro. I've taken upwards of 2.5 grams of test a week. I've taken a gram of tren a week. I've taken 200 milligrams of Winstrol, 200 milligrams Anadrol, 50 milligrams Halo daily. All at the same time, by the way.
What was the end goal there with all that?
Just trying to,
you weren't trying to step on stage, were you?
I did actually.
Oh, you did?
And I got second place in NPC men's physique comp, but I did that once. I'm like, this is not for me. First off, my physique is not proportional, and second off, I don't want to be on stage in fucking underwear, like showing off to a bunch of other dudes. And I'm not saying it's bad. Like, it is a great sport if you get into it, if you like genetically have the body to do it.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't for me. You know what I mean? The end goal really was whatever it takes, bro. Like, I looked up to Rich Piano when I was starting this shit.
Yep.
I have it tattooed on me, bro. Whatever it takes, right here. That's what I thought. I listened to Boston Lloyd and all these motherfuckers in the forums and like on YouTube when I was starting out. And that's what I thought you had to do, was just take the most possible shit to get the best results. So what did I do? I took the most possible shit thinking I would get the best results. What it actually got me was a bunch of goddamn side effects and really like long-term and short-term side effects. So I took a lot of gear. Now keep in mind, this is not pharma gear. I went through an underground lab to get all this shit. So I could have been fucking taking tests thinking I was getting I could have been taking tren thinking I was taking test. So I don't know exactly what I was taking. I'm assuming it was real, but it was just some random UGL. So I've taken a lot of fucking gear, bro. And my worst cycle was hands down my shred stack for the comp. So that was Test, Mast, Winnie, Anavar, Halo, Tren. And this was before I knew about peptides. I didn't even know about Retta, Ozempic, any of that shit. I don't even think it was a thing back then.
I probably didn't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even a thing, bro. So I was taking, again, Test, couple grams. I think I was taking 1 gram of test for the comp. A gram of Tren easy. I was taking a gram of that shit. I was taking 50 Halo a day, 200 Anavar, 200 Winstrol, and then like a gram of Mast as well. So I went like balls to the wall. I looked the craziest I've ever looked, felt like a death. I actually felt like I didn't even have a soul, bro, at that point. I was so fatigued. I would wake up and I would like be like falling. My liver was so out of control. Like the enzymes, alkaline phosphatase, AST, and ALT were so off the chart that it was like very alarming. My kidneys were getting very stressed from the Tren. The Halo and Tren combo turned me into a walking like furnace, bro. Like I was, dude, people would look at me wrong. My dad looked at me wrong, where he's like, what the fuck's wrong? Like, what are you doing, bro? And I just popped off on him, bro. Like, that's not me. I don't do that shit. I do have an irritable, like I am irritable normally off gear. I do have like sort of like an angry-ish personality. So when I take compounds like that, it makes it a million times worse. Where if I'm normal, I have the self-control to be like, what am I doing, bro? Like, what are you doing? You're not going to do that. But then when you get on these compounds, especially taking Tren and Halo together, you become uncontrollable. So like it could have been a lot worse. I could have made a lot worse decisions that landed me back in jail, maybe prison, if I didn't have the control and some shit happens on the street. You know what I mean? Like some damage can be done. You know what I mean?
Would you say that irritability was your worst side effect?
100%, 100%. Now I did have like my RBC hematocrit hemoglobin out of control. Like my hematocrit was at 60, bro, during this cycle. And it's like, holy fuck, that's literally stroke. That's blood clot territory. But again, this was before when I was just taking shit recklessly before I knew how to mitigate shit. So I was kind of just doing whatever I had to do, bro. But yeah, you don't want to be taking shit like that. It's not good.
You're lucky you don't lose any of your hair, man. Do you get any like physical side effects, hair loss, acne, anything like that?
None. I got genetically gifted with the hair, bro. I got luscious locks.
If I'm being honest with you, like if I didn't get those side effects, I probably would have ventured into more dangerous territory. But as soon as I saw that, I'm like, is it worth it for me to get jacked if I don't want to take my shirt off because I'm going to have back knee all the way up my back? Like it's kind of counterproductive at that point because I'm not stepping on stage, right? It's not for me. And what's the point of looking so good and doing all this stuff to your body if I don't want to take my shirt off, right? Because for me, I love to go to the beach. There's a funny quote out there that says, I don't look good, or I don't work out to be healthy. I work out so I can look good on the beach, right? And at some point, I think that's where every dude starts. You don't start working out when you're 15 years old because you want to prolong your health, right?
It's for the girls in the beach,
You do it because you wanted to look cool at the pool party, right? You started off doing a couple crunches. You wanted to have a six-pack, and now all of a sudden you're blasting shit, right? This is what happens. So I work out to look a certain way. You know, it's what I like to do. It helps me feel more confident, and I like being strong. I don't want to have to worry about, do I look like disfigured? So I think I would have definitely ended up doing a little bit more if I didn't have these side effects, but in some ways it might have helped me out, and it probably veered me down that path of how do I look the best, the healthiest way? Because I know, okay, if I can look for all the ways that aren't going to have any side effects for me, but I can still get like 80% of the results, I would much rather do that. And
you did it the perfect way possible. Like, if there was an ideal scenario for someone to start out and do this shit, like the hair thing was, I feel like a huge pusher in your whole journey. But like, if anyone could start off their journey to do this, like you'd want to do what you did pretty much. Because I've heard so much horror stories, bro. Like I have clients come to me that have absolutely fucking raped their bodies with this shit. And like they are suffering. I've had guys come to me that were infertile that didn't even fucking know it because they were just blasting their ass off for so long and now they can't have kids. I've had guys come to me with male pattern baldness, basically going bald to the point where they need hair transplants. I've had guys with like big milkers, and you don't want to have fucking tits when you're a guy, bro, and they're legitimately lactating. It's like there's a lot of things.
Have you seen a dude lactate?
I've lactated.
Oh my God.
I've lactated, bro. When I was
had that shit coming out of you?
So here's the thing. When I was taking Tren, and I took Tren and NPP at one point together. So I've done pretty much everything besides insulin and diuretics. Those are the two things I've never touched. It got to the point where I couldn't wear white because there would be a discharge stain, bro.
Gosh.
I would go like this, and there would be like brown. It wouldn't be white like milk. It's like that's not what it is. It's discharge.
Yeah.
it would be like a brownish liquid that would just pour out of my nipple.
Oh my God.
Bro, it legitimately, I would squeeze this and it would pour out.
That's crazy.
Like it was
How old
disgusting.
were you when that was happening?
I was, I think I was 20 when this happened. Yeah, bro. So like 3 years ago. And it's like, you don't want that shit to be happening when you're 20, bro.
Your friends are off at college and shit, and you're just milking your shit at home.
Holy fuck, everyone's living normal life and I'm
my
out here
God.
fucking lactating. But
Bro, that is crazy.
that's something that you have to be worried about if you're taking 19 ors, if you're taking Ment, Deca, NPP, any of these compounds. Like if your prolactin gets out of control and you combine that with estrogen, if that's in a surplus, you can lactate, and it's fucking disgusting. And you don't want to run into that shit if you're taking these compounds. That's why side mitigation is so important. There's a million things that we could talk about right now when it comes to side effects, both mentally and cosmetically. But you just have to know that you really have to be on top of this shit so it doesn't happen to you, because there really are so many factors, so many things that can happen in the short and long term. It's not worth the risk. You just want to make sure you're on top of this shit, get your protocol set up prior, and you're going to be good.
Oh, absolutely. And that's who you want teaching you about this stuff, is the guy who's gone through it himself and done all of the hard lifting for you. It's like, I've done all of the bad things.
Exactly.
I've gotten all the side effects. Here's how you make sure they don't happen. It's like when you go get a personal trainer. I say this all the time. It's like, I don't want a personal trainer who is genetically gifted, crafted Greek god, who's looked jacked since he was 12 years old.
100%.
There's nothing that guy can teach me about fitness. He doesn't know enough because he's just been blessed genetically. Sure, he might work out, but if he's a hyper responder and all he has to do is a couple curls and he tells me to do the same thing, I'm not going to get that result. I want the guy that used to be a fat fuck that now looks diced. That guy knows how to lose fat and build muscle. I want the guy who fucked it up.
I couldn't agree more, bro. That's why the people I used to look up to, call them a bad influence, call them a fucking good influence. Either way, Rich Piana and fucking Boston Lloyd, they had great genetics, but like, look at their beginnings, bro. Like, they really started from nothing. All these guys that we see, like us, came from, like, we used to look like shit, bro. I'm assuming you said
like shit.
Yeah, so like we both were like low-key losers. I definitely was a massive loser. I was a skinny kid. Yes, I still pulled a little bit when it came to women, but not to the caliber that it is now. I mean, look at, like, I got a fucking model sitting over there. So
About that, right? It's nice when it works out.
but like we come from these backgrounds where we're not genetically gifted whatsoever. I'm not genetically gifted. If anything, I have poor genetics when it comes to my physique, to the point where I wouldn't be able to make it in a bodybuilding competition. I just don't have that symmetrical physique. I probably could make it to a certain degree, but not Olympia. And if I'm going to do something, I'm taking it to the very fucking top of the degree I can.
That's why people ask sometimes, like, oh, you ever talk about competing? I'm like, no, because I physically could not do Mr. Olympia, even if I wanted to. I don't have the proportions for it.
Exactly.
So it's like, what's the point? Why start unless you're ready to go the distance?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people mess that up in not only what they do with their life, their business, their family, their financial situation, and even, exercise. I think it's a weird thing that people kind of just want a taste of everything, and I think a lot of that does stem back to social media, where it's just like everything's out there in front of you all the time, and it's this whole grass is greener effect, that anywhere you go, it's going to be better elsewhere. And the reality is, the grass is green where you water it, but you can pick your yard, right? Like, you can take what you've got and make that the best that you can.
Yes.
I read that in a book. It was called Good to Great. It was Jim Cron or something like that. Jim something. Good to Great. If you haven't read it, I would totally recommend it. And he talks about not necessarily how to get, like, a lot of self-help books are how do you go from a piece of shit to, like, really good. His is like, how do you go from good to the best? Like, the guys that are doing the 80, the 90% of the work that we're probably doing, we're probably both doing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, you've grown a great page, you've had success in drop shipping, and you've got a good coaching program. How do you become the best at that? How do you get to the level of these guys that are just crushing it? And he's like, the number one thing that I took away from that book was, in order to be actually the best at something, you have to take what you are genetically able to do. There is no reality, no matter how hard I try, that I could win Mr. Olympia, because my shoulders aren't far enough apart, my hip proportions, my hip flexors, everything like it, I couldn't do it. Why spend all my time, even though that's what I might want to do, why spend my time on something that I physically couldn't achieve? There is something that you were made to do. Everyone has this. Find what that thing is and do it better than anyone else that does it. As long as you are the best at something, I think you'll be able to get fulfilled. And if it's what you were genetically designed to do, go do it, right? Like for me, I think I had the upbringing that I had, and I had the issues that I had because it was to show myself, like, okay, here's how I can make myself better. Even though I didn't look jacked when I was in high school and I was a really skinny kid and I wasn't, 3-sport varsity athlete, I still liked sports, but it gave me a chip on my shoulder to say, like, okay, why wasn't I like this? How can I make myself better? And it gave me that air of self-improvement. And I think something that I was born to do is be able to give people confidence. And that can come from things like, I had genetically low testosterone. I was under 300 nanograms per deciliter.
Holy fuck, as a natural?
As a natural. And,
damn, bro.
And you say, holy shit, the amount of kids that we have coming in under 25 that are under 300, you would not believe it. It's almost all of them. And I thought there was something wrong with me, and of course there was, but at this time I could still bench 315 pounds. I had a perfect diet. It made no sense that my T would be low. So for me to find that out and for me to experiment on myself and see the results that came from that, like we talked about before, the confidence, the energy, everything like that, being able to share that. I was also pretty gifted when it came to sales. We both used to do, me and my business partner did high ticket sales before we started this company.
So lucrative to have that skill set.
And it's like I learned how to speak clearly. I learned how to convey a message. And the biggest thing people fuck up in sales is they think you have to be a scumbag. The people that do the best are the people that just have a good story to tell to the people that want to hear it. It's not, do you have to make up a bullshit story? It's just finding the right people to hear the story.
Yes.
And that's what I've done now. And I think the reason I'm in this business is I think there's so many people that want to hear this story because a lot of people internally think this is them. And that's what I think I do better than anybody else is I can convey that message about making yourself better.
100%. That's why you are where you are now, bro, because you figured that shit out. I also think that it's learning from people who also have succeeded in the route you want to do. That's so important that you don't take advice from, if you're trying to be a certain individual, if you're trying to achieve something, whatever it may be, whether a fucking bodybuilder, if you have the genetics, whether you want a specific business, whether you want your body to look a certain way, you got to look at people who did that shit the same exact way that you need to do it as well. You need to look at people who started off in a similar situation where they were like broke, where they were fucking skinny fat and they did it. You need to look at people who actually got the fucking results. You don't listen to someone like you were saying that are genetically gifted and put in like a little bit, like a week of work and got their physique. You're not gonna be able to emulate that shit. You got to find people that have done what you've done and learn from them. And that's, I feel like, the easiest way to get there, bro. I've had mentors in the past. I haven't paid anybody, but I've consumed hundreds of hours of content, bro, back before I did anything on what exactly I wanted to do, what I wanted to look like, how I wanted to run my business, what I want my overall picture to look in like 5 to 10 years time. And I learned from them, and that's how I'm making my reality real, bro. It's like the combination of you putting in that work, of you doing everything you have to do, optimizing your hormones, getting to where you need to be yourself to do that shit, but you also need people to look at to sort of emulate what you're doing. Otherwise, you're trying to reinvent the wheel and you're trying to just do this shit on your own. It's very easy to find people that have achieved similar things and emulate it and just figure out how the fuck they did it and then try doing that shit yourself.
Did you have like a physical mentor, like a guy that you worked with one-on-one, or did you just kind of go to YouTube University?
I didn't, bro. YouTube University was for me, bro. I didn't go to college. I learned everything I know now from forums and YouTube. And then, of course, when it comes to gear and health mitigation, my personal experience and trial and erroring on myself. That was the only way I could learn. I got a ton of data from forums, from YouTube, but you don't really learn unless you do that shit yourself to your own body. And the biggest thing I learned was that everyone's different genetically. Everyone is going to react differently to these compounds. I read people that had horrific sides from Tren, but I can, at 50 milligrams a week, I can take a gram of that shit and I'm still functional. So it's like everyone's different genetically, and you really have to get that. It goes back to the blood work thing. Figure out how you are genetically before you get on, and then that's when you win with your cycle. It's going to be a smooth sailing experience once you understand how your body is prior, how it works at a low dose, midway through the blast, and then post blast. Make sure you're fully recovered. Once you have that data, that concrete data on how your body reacts, shit's going to be a breeze with your cycle.
Do you think people are prone or genetically fat or out of shape or that it's harder for some people, or do you think everyone is pretty much on a similar playing field when it comes to that?
I think it's all a similar playing field, bro. Some people are going to have better genetics when it comes to blowing up their physique. Hyper responders to gear, they do exist. It's a very small percentage of people, but some people are lucky. They can take 100 milligrams of test a week and blow the fuck up and look like a fucking IPB pro. That's not me. That's not 99% of people. So I do believe that 99% of people, the people that aren't genetically gifted, are on the same exact playing field. Some people have faster metabolism. Some people have slower metabolism. Some people will react to certain foods a specific way. Some people will react to training a specific way, but we're all in the same game, bro. We all are trying the same compounds, eating the same food, doing the same training splits. Like you just have to find what works for you, and that's how you're going to win. It's different for everybody.
So for someone who says, I have trouble losing weight, do you find it to be a little bit of a shortcut, like a lot of people describe when they start saying things like, I'm going to jump on retatrutide? Do you find that to be used for clinical purposes because someone is just genetically fat, or do you think that's better used as, hey, just use this as a way to improve your body composition?
So I think if someone's fat as fuck and they're like, I need to hop on Retta, that's a Band-Aid to a fucking problem. Unless you're going to take retatrutide for the rest of your life, that's a Band-Aid to a underlying problem that you have to fix. You should be able to get your diet and training dialed in way before you take any compound. You should have it in a place where you're consistently seeing progress with your weight loss or weight gain, whatever you're trying to do. You should be doing this shit naturally. Then once you get to a point where you see consistent progress over like a decent amount of time, maybe 6 months, a year, then you consider these compounds, because that's when you're going to see amazing fucking results.
So you think it's better used more as a cherry on top as opposed to the main course?
I believe so.
Because a lot of times, especially in the medical field, they use it for the opposite way. They say, oh, you're really, really fat. You need this medically. And then the guy who takes it or girl who takes it's like, oh, I just want to kind of look a little better for beach season. They're like, oh, you're on drugs. I can go either way on this, to be honest with you. I think someone who is really, really fat might have just had so many factors that have led up to that point that it's now just so irreversible to them, because it is harder, not to say that it's an excuse, but it is harder to get up, work out, eat clean when you're hungry all the time, because your stomach is so far expanded.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think there's a sense of, if you are, really that out of shape, there's things like that you can take that can kind of kickstart your position or give you, a 50-yard head start before you get into the end zone. But I also think there's a lot of what you talk about where people just use it as a Band-Aid fix. They're like, oh, I'm taking retatrutide because I don't want to lift a finger.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets dicey on the medical side, is kind of determining who's who. Of course, we have plenty of people come in, and I absolutely think this is totally fine to use it as that cherry on top. You've been eating better, you've been losing weight, you've been exercising, and you just want the fat to come off a little faster. There is nothing wrong with adding in a compound to make these things happen faster, because you've already got control over it. That part I think is totally fair. But I do also believe it can provide the assistance to those who are maybe having trouble just kind of getting out of the starting gate.
I think retatrutide is such an amazing fucking compound that's been created, bro, because it started off with semaglutide, Ozempic, then Turs, Mounjaro, and now it's Retta. Retta's the fucking meta, baby. So it's like, this shit, it works. The sides are nothing compared to semaglutide. And if Retta was a thing back when I was competing, holy fuck, bro, my prep would have been so easy.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've taken it now. I can eat like a fucking French fry every day and feel full. It's crazy as shit.
Are you on it right now?
I'm not on it right now, but I was taking it like a month ago. I was on it for quite some time.
What was your experience like?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Zero side effects, complete appetite suppression. Cognitive function went up too, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, a lot of people I've talked to got cognitive benefits as well. I just felt way more sharp, way more dialed, way more focused, which is amazing.
I think a lot of that happens when you're not eating as much.
Yeah,
a lot of problems we have is you're digesting all day. Your body is so focused on digesting, it can't send energy anywhere else.
It's a nail in the coffin. Exactly,
that's why people do things like intermittent fasting and things like that. But, of course, I do this for a living, so everybody I know asks me for all this different stuff. A guy I live with is another really successful entrepreneur. He moved in with us, and June 15th is when he moved in. And by July 20th, he had lost 20 pounds. It's like, where else can you lose 20 pounds in a month and not lose muscle? Right? Like, he looked great. He felt great. And it's life-changing for these guys. So that's something I'm really excited to see, because We're only on our third generation of GLPs. You know, the first one was the semaglutide, second was tirzepatide, and GLP-3.
Imagine where it's going,
It's
bro.
going to create some crazy things. And now I see the future personally where they will begin to compound these things. Well, there'll be retatrutide with a peptide or retatrutide with TRT or something of that nature that it will not only allow you to shed fat like it already does, but you'll be able to build muscle at the same time. And that's why I'm really excited because steroids, for example, we haven't had a new steroid since the 80s. They stopped making them because...
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. So imagine if they had let it continue, where they would be, right? Like the compounds that would exist. There has not been a new steroid created since then.
There would be some crazy ass shit.
They would have stuff that would have no side effects.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't happen, right? They're 3 generations into GLPs and now there's no side effects. So we're now past the point of what's the trade-off? There's no trade-off. There's only positive. Now how positive can they make it? And that's where I'm really excited to see over the next 2-3 years, where there's going to be some ridiculous things that come out.
I am too. Hell yeah. We good? We still good on time? Okay, perfect.
All right, we can do a closeout and then wrap it up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is going to be the first fucking episode of the Diago Fit podcast. I'll take these bad boys off. But I hope you guys like this shit. It was great talking to you, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah, 100%.
Tons of fun.
We'll definitely have to link again and do this shit. This is fun.
Absolutely. I'm a short drive over there to Tampa. We have to have you over at the place.
Hell yeah, 100%. But I think a take home for this video is going to be, first off, side mitigation. Make sure that your protocol is dialed, that you're doing everything you got to do when it comes to your cycle. Just make sure you're getting your bloods done. And if you are going to take this shit, just do it the right way. Like, the worst thing that can happen is that some shit goes wrong in your bloods. It most probably will go wrong, but at least you're taking the preemptive measures to do things the right way. And once you get everything dialed, it's going to be a smooth experience. But I think that's like the take home point for this.
Couldn't agree more. And if you ever need a place to get the blood done, you know where to go.
Hell yeah. All right, guys.
All right.